It was one of those brutal January nights in rural Vermont, when the wind sounded like it was trying to peel the roof off. My cabin sat half buried in snow, miles from the nearest neighbor, wrapped in a suffocating silence that made every sound feel deliberate. I was house sitting for a friend who had taken off for Costa Rica. Lucky bastard. I was sitting on the couch, buried in a blanket, the glow of my laptop screen the only light in the room. Outside, everything was frozen and dead quiet. No cell signal out there. Barely any Wi-Fi. Just a weak connection good enough for emails and the occasional message. Around midnight, the furnace kicked off and the cabin went still. That's when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. Not from the front door. Not from the back door either. It came from beneath me. 3 knocks. Slow, measured, coming directly from under the floorboards. I froze. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. For a moment, I thought it was the heating system settling. But no, the furnace had just gone off. I waited, my breath shallow. Knock, knock, knock. Again, a little louder. The floor beneath my feet vibrated slightly with each knock. I stood slowly listening. There was a crawl space under the cabin, barely 4 feet tall. It was sealed shut from inside. I hadn't been down there. My friend told me not to bother. Just old piping and rodents, he said. I walked across the creaky floor to the corner of the cabin where the hatch was hidden beneath an antique rug. I peeled it back. The metal latch was sealed tight. Still dusty. Still locked. So what the hell was knocking? I backed away from the hatch. Tried to rationalize. Maybe ice shifting beneath the cabin? Or some frozen tree root pressing against the foundation? I told myself anything to avoid the creeping realization. The sound had rhythm, intent, like someone was announcing their presence. I stayed up for hours, wrapped in my blanket, waiting for it to happen again. But the knocks didn't return that night. The next day, I drove into town for groceries. The woman at the gas station, who looked like she'd lived there her whole life, asked where I was staying. When I told her the name of the road, her expression soured. "That place with the old well?" she asked. I nodded slowly. I hadn't seen a well. She didn't say anything else, just handed me my change and said, "Be careful out there." That night, the storm picked up. I lost power around 11 p.m. No lights, no heat, just the groan of wind through the trees and the occasional crack of snow-laden branches giving way. I lit some candles. The flickering shadows turned the cabin into something otherworldly. I was halfway through reading an old book when I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Same spot, same number of knocks, right beneath my feet. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My candle flickered like it had been touched. Knock. Just one this time. It wasn't ice. It wasn't the foundation shifting. Something was down there. I grabbed the flashlight and approached the hatch. The latch was still locked, unmoved, untouched. But this time, I heard something else, a dragging sound, like something scraping along the dirt below. My hand shook as I knelt beside the hatch, pressing my ear to the wood. Silence. Then a voice, faint, whispered, "Let me in." I stumbled back so fast I knocked the candle over. Darkness swallowed the room until I found the flashlight again. I shone it on the hatch, still sealed, still locked, but the rug had shifted on its own, like something had pushed up from below. That was the last night I stayed there. The next morning, I packed my things and left a voicemail for my friend. I didn't tell him everything, just said something felt off and that he should check the crawl space when he returned. Weeks later, he called me. There was no crawl space, no hatch, no lock panel in the floor. He even sent me photos. The rug I described? Not there. The spot I said the hatch had been, it was just hardwood, no seam, no markings. I didn't know what to say. I had seen it. I had heard it. He asked if I was okay. I lied and said yes. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear those knocks in my head. 3 slow raps from beneath the floor. And I can't help but wonder, what if I had opened it? It started with a package. Not the delivery itself. That part never happened. Just the message. "Your order has been delivered." I remember staring at it, half asleep, slumped on my couch after work. It was past 9 p.m., and the cold November rain blurred the windows. I'd been waiting on that delivery for days. A vintage camera lens I scored on a collector's site. Something about it just felt personal. I opened the door. No package, just the sound of light rain tapping the steps and a hallway that smelled like wet carpet and cigarette smoke. I live in a small 3-story walk-up in an older part of town. Quiet, mostly retirees and a few students. Everyone keeps to themselves. I checked my phone again. Still said delivered. I walked down all 3 flights. Nothing on the front stoop. Nothing behind the building either. No neighbors outside. Not even the usual stray cat that haunted the alley. I felt off. Back inside, I flipped through my delivery app, opened my camera app to check the security feed. Blank. Just static. That was weird. The feed had worked fine the day before. It was an indoor cam pointed at the hallway just outside my door. Nothing fancy, but reliable. Now it looked like someone had unplugged it, or worse. I locked the door, triple-checked the latch, and sat there on the couch, watching the door like it might start breathing. I told myself I was being dramatic. Sometimes packages get marked as delivered early. It happens. I fell asleep on the couch, with the lights on and my phone charging by my side. At 3:16 a.m., I woke up gasping. There was a sound, a soft thump, not loud, almost gentle, like someone had set something down just outside my door. I froze. My heart pounded in my ears. I didn't move. Then nothing. Silence. I waited, breath caught in my chest, listening for footsteps, voices, anything. But the hallway was dead quiet. I stood and crept to the door. No lights on in the hall, but faint moonlight spilled through the building's side window, just enough to see a silhouette through the peephole. There was a box, just sitting there. No footsteps, no knock, just appeared. I stood there for maybe 2 minutes, not moving. My gut screamed, don't open it, but curiosity won. I unlocked the deadbolt and slowly opened the door. The box was cold, damp from the rain, but otherwise untouched. No one in the hall. No sound from any of the neighbors. I took the box inside, locking everything behind me again. It was the same package I'd been waiting for. My name, my address. It looked normal. But when I opened it, the lens wasn't inside. There was just a single slip of paper, written in messy, scrawled Sharpie. I know where you live. That was it. No explanation. No return address. No joke. I felt sick. I called the delivery service. There was no record of who dropped it off. No photo, no timestamp. They claimed it had been delivered 12 hours earlier. I checked the building's security cams. The one at the front door, footage frozen. The one in the hallway, still dead. No one else had packages stolen. No one had noticed anything strange. The landlord brushed it off. Probably just a prank. Maybe someone grabbed it by mistake and returned it. But it didn't feel like a prank. Someone had watched me, waited until I was asleep, and left that message. Why? That night I didn't sleep. And the night after that I noticed something else. Outside my kitchen window, which faces the alley, there was a shoe print on the ledge. A muddy mark from the rain. It was too high for someone just passing by. They would have had to climb the fire escape. I bought new locks, got a new camera, slept with a baseball bat next to the bed. For weeks, I checked every window twice. Every sound had me jumping. Whoever it was never came back. Or maybe they did, and they were just better at not being seen. To this day, I still don't know who left that note. A stalker? Someone messing with me? A wrong address turned obsession? All I know is that night changed how I live. I don't open the door right away anymore. I don't ignore strange feelings. And I never trust a knock in the dark. It was an ordinary Thursday in early spring. Gray skies, light drizzle, nothing unusual. I had the day off from my job at the antique bookstore downtown. I planned to spend it the way I usually did on quiet days: coffee, music, and reorganizing my growing vinyl collection. My apartment was tucked on the 5th floor of a pre-war building in the historic district. Creaky floors, long narrow hallways, no elevator. It was charming in the way old places are, until they get quiet. too quiet. Around 4:30 p.m., just as a thundercloud passed and the city sank into that eerie, post-rain hush, I heard it. A knock, not on my door, but at the end of the hallway, near the stairwell. It was firm, 3 sharp raps, then nothing. I paused, one hand hovering over my record player, needle still mid-drop. At first, I thought maybe a neighbor had locked themselves out. We didn't get many visitors up here. The top floors were mostly long-term tenants who kept to themselves. But something about the knock, it didn't feel right. Then it came again, this time on my door. 3 knocks, no doorbell, just bare knuckles on wood. I didn't move, didn't say a word. I live alone, and I wasn't expecting anyone. I hadn't ordered food. My family never drops by unannounced, and none of my neighbors were known for surprise visits. Still, I forced myself toward the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. Light flickering above the landing. No movement. No sound. I waited there, eye to the door, breath shallow. Then, ding, the doorbell rang. Not the usual chime. This one was longer, distorted. It buzzed like an old film reel melting. I stepped back from the door like it burned me. Then I heard the voice. Low, calm, right outside the door. I know you're in there. I froze. The voice didn't shout. It didn't threaten. It simply stated the fact, like someone noting the time or the weather. I backed away, heart pounding. I didn't dare respond. No more knocks. No footsteps. No sound at all now. Just a horrible stillness pressing in on the room, like it had been holding its breath for this moment. After a full minute of silence, I crept back toward the peephole. This time, there was a figure. Tall, wearing a dark coat soaked from the rain, just standing there. He was too close to the door for me to see his face clearly, but his head was tilted slightly, like he was listening. He didn't move. I held my breath, not even blinking. Then, just as suddenly as he'd appeared, he turned and walked down the hallway, slow, deliberate steps, until he reached the stairwell and vanished. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then I checked the peephole again. Empty hallway. I still didn't open the door. That night, I didn't sleep. I pulled a chair into the living room and sat facing the door, phone in hand, thumb hovering over 911 more than once. But nothing happened. No more knocks. No more voice. The next morning, I went straight to the building's front desk. There's a security camera mounted above the stairwell on each floor. I asked the building manager, Gerald, if he could check the footage. He frowned, said the power flickered during the storm and the system reset. Nothing recorded between 4 and 5 p.m. I asked if any guests had signed in. No. No visitors logged. No one matching the description I gave. The maintenance guy swore he saw someone loitering on the second floor landing an hour earlier. But when he went to confront them, they were gone. That was it. Nothing else. I stayed paranoid for weeks. I stopped playing music when I was home. Slept with my phone on loud. I even installed my own peephole camera, motion-triggered, battery-backed. But the man never came back. Not visibly, anyway. Sometimes I think I hear footsteps on the stairs late at night. Or soft knocks, 3 of them, too faint to be real, but enough to jolt me upright. And twice, I found small smudges on my door, like someone had touched it. Just once, just enough to leave something behind. I cleaned them. I kept the camera rolling, but it's never caught a thing. Now, I don't answer the door unless I'm sure. I don't ignore those gut feelings. And every time I hear a knock, a firm, deliberate knock, I freeze. Because I never learned who that man was, or how he knew I was home, or if he'll come back.